The Black Sea Emperor, Mithridates, Book 1, Part 2. Chapter 8. 3 years later. Sir, it is an emergency, Ariobarzanes said as he rushed into the palace room. Mithridates VI jumped up. What is it? He asked, concerned. Diophantus the Elder is passing away, Ariobarzanes said, trying to hide the tears. Bring me to him, Mithridates VI said as he left his throne. The two rushed down the hall and into Diophantus' room. Mithridates VI, Diophantus the Elder said as he coughed. Oh, for the love of the gods, Mithridates shouted. He rushed over to his bedside. Listen, boy, you have been the greatest gift to me, Diophantus the Elder said, still coughing. I want you, no matter what, to keep this kingdom free from Roman rule. Do you understand? Yes, I understand, Mithridates VI said as tears started to fill his eyes. Stop wasting your time here. You have a kingdom to rule. That is an order, Diophantus the Elder said. Mithridates VI, utterly heartbroken, left the room. We will bury his body near the royal tomb, he said as he pulled his tears back. Before Mithridates VI could get out of the palace, Gordius the Younger came rushing towards him. Sir, I have the 5,000 troops that you requested, Gordius the Younger said. I am also very sorry to hear about the death of Diophantus. He will be missed. Just forget about it. I want you to leave those 5,000 troops towards Trapezos. If you can take it peacefully, do so. If not, take it by force, Mithridates VI said. Gordius the Younger bowed and left. Mithridates made his way to the public square. Sir, here are the two mercenary generals that I told you about. They are both very level-headed and great at commanding troops, Dorilaus said. Mithridates started to smile. Thank you, Dorilaus. You can go back to your post now, he said. Dorilaus bowed and left. And your names are? My name is Archelaus. This is my brother Neoptolemus, Archelaus said. Archelaus was a brave mercenary general. He had fought in Armenia and was looking for more work. Neoptolemus was an admiral and exactly what Mithridates was in need of. Mithridates studied the two for a moment. Are you ready for your first campaign? He said, grinning. The two brothers were shocked. You have the money to pay us? Archelaus asked. Mithridates pulled out 2 pouches filled with drachmas. I always have more, he said as he threw the pouches at the brothers. We will campaign wherever you like, Archelaus said. Archelaus could not help but feel if he had hit the long-lost treasure. Where are we actually going? Neoptolemus asked as he looked through the pouch. Have you ever heard of Colchis? Mithridates asked. The two brothers, again, were shocked. Colchis, they said at the same time. What type of troops do we have to fight against these Colchians? Archelaus asked. We have 5,000 Greek hoplites on a current campaign out near Trapezos. They will be back soon, Mithridates said. Here is our royal barracks. Archelaus' eye caught one thing and one thing only. Chariots? These haven't been used in years, he said. We will have to test them. The drivers have been heavily trained, Mithridates said. He proceeded to give the brothers a tour of all his infantry and cavalry. Meanwhile, in Trapezos. Surrender now. You have no chance and will only prolong the inevitable, Gordius the Younger said. The general defending Trapezos collected his defenders. Truthfully, we have no choice. I vote that we surrender. The army quickly realized that there was no point in fighting. They surrendered the port city. That was a wise choice. You will all be spared and keep your jobs, Gordius the Younger said as he walked into the city, having his first moment of triumph. Sir, what do you want us to do with the treasure? Hermocrates asked. Bring all of it back to Pontus, head of the main army. I will follow soon, Gordius the Younger said. Gordius the Younger, high on his horse, rode back with 500 more troops and a wealthy baggage train. He could not help but smile as he looked towards the Black Sea. Gordius, it is great to see you again, Mithridates said. The baggage train arrived safely with the wealth. I am glad to hear that, sir. I also recruited the garrison of 500 into the army, Gordius the Younger said. Great job, Mithridates said. Are you ready for another campaign? A grin crept across Gordius the Younger's face. Where to this time? He asked. Colchis, you will also be accompanied by a larger army and new generals, Mithridates said. Here are the brothers Neoptolemus and Archelaus. We also have a chariot commander, Craterus. I am ready to train with these new generals, Gordius the Younger said. The 4 generals spent a week training together, showing off their different tactics. Mithridates walked back into his palace room. Greetings, Sir, Ariobarzanes said as he bowed and walked Mithridates to his room. Someone is here to see you. Who is it? Mithridates asked. It is an ambassador from the Bosporan kingdom, Ariobarzanes said. Let him in, Mithridates said as he sat down on his throne. Greetings, great king of Pontus. My name is Lasonas, and I come from the Bosporan kingdom, Lasonas said. And what is it that a kingdom so far away from Pontus wants? Mithridates asked. The ambassador thought for a moment. We have been recently attacked by Scythians. They have grown in numbers, and we simply cannot hold them off. So you want me to come to your rescue? Well, I am on my own campaigns, Mithridates asked. Not exactly, sir, the ambassador said. If you help us fight back the Scythians, we would forever pay tribute and be loyal to Pontus. Mithridates thought for a moment. I will accept, but I am not able to help you just yet. My generals are going to be campaigning in Colchis. They won't be available for another year. The ambassador was clearly not happy, but he kept his cool. Thank you for understanding, sir. The ambassador was about to leave, but then Mithridates stopped him. You will be staying in Pontus, he said. When my generals are ready, you will guide them back to your kingdom. Yes, sir, was all that the ambassador said as he bowed and left the room. If there was a name for Lucky, it would fit you perfectly, Ivalda said. Meanwhile, in Colchis. Be on your guard. These are fierce warriors that will die for their homeland, Gordius said. Gordius, look over there, Archelaus said as he pointed. Not too far from the Pontic army, the king of Colchis was gathering his troops. I have the perfect plan, Gordius the Younger said. We will have our 5,000 hoplites attack their army. While they are fighting, I will lead the cavalry into their flank. If you have the chance, Craterus, unleash the scythe chariots. All agreed on the battle plan. Archelaus and Neoptolemus commanded the infantry. Our first battle in years, Archelaus said. And it's against fierce tribesmen. This will be fun, Neoptolemus replied. They spotted us. Where is Gordius? Brace, Archelaus shouted. The Colchian infantry hit the wall of spears like a wave against a rock. Push them back. The 2 brothers commanded their troops to the best of their ability. A grin crawled across the face of Craterus. Now, he unleashed his scythe chariots. They started to pick up speed. The Colchians had not been trained to fight against the chariots. Attack, now! Archelaus and Neoptolemus pushed their infantry forward. Battle cries could be heard coming from the rear of the enemy. It was Gordius. Pinned on 3 sides, the Colchians broke. As the generals took account of their army, Gundahar, the king that united all the tribes, came walking out bloodied. We surrender, were his only words. You will be allowed to live peacefully in your kingdom, but you will be obliged to pay tribute and give troops to Mithridates VI, king of Pontus, Gordius the Younger said. I agree upon the terms, Gundahar said. Gundahar walked away, feeling defeated. We are still not done here, Archelaus said. What do you mean? Gordius the Younger asked. That was only 1 king. There could be 100 more out there, Archelaus said. He's right, Neoptolemus said. Our campaign is only getting started. Where should we go next? Gordius the Younger asked. We should march on Phasis. It is a good harbor and is the best way for us to get supplies, Archelaus said. Does Mithridates have a fleet? Neoptolemus asked. Yes. However, the crews are untested, and it is very small, Gordius replied. I am going to take a small cavalry unit and make my way back to Pontus. I will let Mithridates know how we are doing and ask for the fleet, Neoptolemus said. Very well, I wish you luck on your journey, Gordius the Younger replied. Good luck, brother, Archelaus said. Now we make our way to Phasis. The fledgling Pontic army marched up the coast of the Black Sea. After 3 days, they made it. You weren't kidding, Gordius the Younger said. It is a perfect port city. How did you know that? I have been around, to say the least, Archelaus said. With women, or, Craterus joked. I tend to stay away from women, Archelaus said, laughing. Will this be a long siege? Gordius the Younger asked, smiling. They might resist at first, but when Neoptolemus brings the fleet, they will surrender, Archelaus said. Let's see how they react to a messenger with a white flag, Gordius the Younger said. He ordered a messenger to be sent out. We don't want to negotiate, one of the defenders yelled out as he shot the messenger with his bow. Start building siege ladders, Gordius the Younger ordered. So you have beat one army, and you want the fleet to reply, Mithridates asked. Yes, sir. We have crushed one army under the King Gundahar, Neoptolemus said. But winter is coming, and we have decided to besiege Phasis, which could go on for months. Very well. Ariobarzanes, summon Aristonicus and have him lead Neoptolemus to Sinope, Mithridates said. Ariobarzanes left the palace room with Neoptolemus. Mithridates, there is someone here to see you, Pelopidas said. Bring him in, Mithridates said, rolling his eyes. The man walked into the palace room, flanked by two other men. The great king of Pontus, I have already heard of your exploits, the man said. Mithridates leaned forward. And who would you three be, he asked. My name is Taxiles. I am the leader of the Braesian Shields, Taxiles said. These are my most loyal members, Alexander and Gaitus. Mithridates laid back. What is it that you want? I don't usually see generals showing up to my capital with their army following them. Taxiles let out a smile, his long hair flung back. I was looking for employment. My men and I haven't campaigned recently, he said. Mithridates smiled. We would be glad to have you in the Pontic army. Where do you want us to stay? Taxiles asked. Finally, someone who has good judgment. Pelopidas, Mithridates called. What is it, your majesty? Pelopidas asked. Tell Alexander of Paphlagonia to lead Taxiles and his infantrymen to Amysis. There is a barracks there, Mithridates said. Of course, come right with me, Pelopidas said. Taxiles left with Alexander and Gaitus. My army seems to be growing at an alarming rate, Mithridates said. Sir, not to be rude, but do we have the funds to sustain so many men and horses? Gordius the Elder asked. Mithridates thought for a moment. No, but I know exactly where to get more. Chapter 9. Your Majesty, the nurse said, out of breath. Come quickly, Valda is having a child. Mithridates jumped out of his seat and rushed after the nurse. Is she okay? Mithridates was overcome by panic. Yes, she is perfectly fine, the nurse replied. Over there. Look, Valda said in a weak tone. He is going to be just like you. What do you want to name him? Mithridates asked, smiling at his new baby. We will name him Mithridates, Valda said. A great choice, Mithridates said, laughing. Our first child. I can't wait to see what his destiny will be, Valda said. Greater than mine, Mithridates replied. The two stayed in the room with their new child all night. Alexander of Paphlagonia, it is nice to see you, Pelopidas said. I don't remember the last time we were together. Pelopidas, it is nice to see you too, Alexander of Paphlagonia said. But I cannot help but notice. There is an entire infantry unit behind you. Pelopidas laughed. These are the Braesian Shields. This is Taxiles, Alexander, and Gaitus. Mithridates has requested that you bring them to Amysis. Well, I guess I will have time to meet our new army units. Come with me. Thank you, Pelopidas, Alexander of Paphlagonia said. What is it like living on the coast of the Black Sea? Taxiles asked, staring out into the ocean. It is very refreshing, especially nice to be able to get away from the squabbling nobles, Alexander of Paphlagonia said. Where do you come from? I come from India, very far from here, Taxiles said. I have never heard of it before, Alexander of Paphlagonia replied. Probably for the better, Taxiles said with a smirk. Well, that is Amysis. We should be there by nightfall, Alexander of Paphlagonia said. The group continued their journey. Meanwhile, in Colchis. Finally, I can see Neoptolemus, Gordius the Younger said. I was about to accuse him of running away, Archelaus said. Look, the defenders have sent out a messenger. This is our chance. Gordius the Younger walked out into the open field to meet with the man. The breeze from the Black Sea blew his long hair back. We surrender. We can no longer fight, the starving defender said. Surrender the town peacefully and your lives will be spared, Gordius the Younger said. We agree to the terms, the man said. The city gates of Phasis were opened after 1 month. It is good to see that you are alive, Neoptolemus said. It is good to see fresh supplies. This damned campaign will get us all killed, Gordius the Younger replied. Calm your nerves, Archelaus said. However, winter is coming. We are going to have to end this campaign quickly. We will spend a few days staying inside the city, then we will leave, Gordius the Younger said. Sir, there are a few kings here to meet with you, one of the guards said. Kings? Archelaus asked. Let's go check it out. We do not wish to risk a fight with you. Thus we have decided to surrender all of our territory, one of the kings said. This can't be real, Gordius the Younger thought. We will accept the terms, but only when you bring all of your arms to this exact spot. Do not worry, we will be back within a week, the king said. Farewell. I think we just ended our campaign, Neoptolemus said. I am not so sure. They have no reason to surrender to us, Gordius the Younger said. We will see if they come back in a week with their arms. Then we can all call this campaign off, Archelaus said. This is terrible news, Gordius the elder said. What is it? Mithridates asked, putting his diadem on. Ariobarzanes is on his deathbed, Gordius the elder replied. Tears started to fill his eyes. Mithridates fell onto his knees. Tears started to stream down his face. Bring me to him. Gordius the elder brought Mithridates to where Ariobarzanes was. Mithridates, I am glad that I get to see you one last time, Ariobarzanes said as he coughed. I can't believe that this is happening, Mithridates said as he fell at the bed. Do not worry, my boy. My time has simply come. The gods have used me for all they can, Ariobarzanes said. Mithridates choked on his words. Why? Why are all my friends dying? He screamed. Mithridates, we are old now, but you are young. You are the special savior king, Ariobarzanes said. Now, I don't want you to be here any longer. You have a family and a kingdom. Go, rule the world. Mithridates tried his very best to hold back the tears, but the pain was unbearable. Ariobarzanes passed away overnight. He was buried with full honors. Is there anything that I can do for you, sir? Gordius the elder asked. Get out, was all that Mithridates said. They actually did it, Gordius the Younger said. It seems that our army was too much for them, Archelaus boasted. I am also hearing reports of the Iberians preparing to bring us gifts, Gordius the Younger said. I have horrible news, Neoptolemus said. Ariobarzanes passed away. What? Gordius the Younger asked, shocked. I can't believe this. We have to get back to Pontus. I will take the army by land. You guys travel by sea, Craterus said. Thank you, Craterus, Archelaus said. Let's get going. Mithridates must be devastated. The generals loaded up onto the ships and left the harbor of their newly captured city. They barely had any time to celebrate their triumph. The Black Sea. It's something different, Gordius the Younger said. Are you talking about the incoming pirate ships or the water being moved by the pirate ships? Archelaus asked. Gordius snapped out of his trance. Pirates? Incoming! Neoptolemus engaged a small navy of pirates. Their flagships smashed into their enemies. The small pirate raiding force was quickly overrun. The flagship was spared. Tell us your name, Neoptolemus demanded. My name is Seleucus. Seleucus the pirate, he said. Seleucus was a pirate leader whose base was in Cilicia. And what business do you think you have operating in the Black Sea? Neoptolemus asked. Ask the ships behind you, Seleucus said as he kicked Neoptolemus in the stomach. 10 more pirate ships ambushed the Pontic fleet. Aristonicus, who accompanied Neoptolemus, wheeled the ships around the pirates. Let's see how they like getting rammed. In an instant, fragments of wood were sent flying into the air. The Pontic troops began boarding the enemy pirate ships, overrunning them instantly. You're gonna regret that, Neoptolemus said. Neoptolemus punched Seleucus and then followed up his first attack with another. Enough, Aristonicus shouted as he grabbed Seleucus. We will bring him back to Mithridates. He will know what to do with him. I say that we throw him overboard, Neoptolemus said, gripping his stomach. Nonsense. He can be useful to us, Aristonicus said. Seleucus was tied up against one of the poles that held up the mast. Your Majesty, Pelopidas began, your generals are back from their campaign in Colchis. Bring them in, Mithridates said. Hopefully we have some good news. Mithridates, Gordius the Younger said as he walked in. The campaign was a huge success. All of Colchis is ours. All of it? Mithridates asked, stunned. You heard him right. We conquered all of Colchis, Archelaus said. The Iberians are also bringing gifts to us, Gordius the Younger said. That is great news, Mithridates said, but where is Craterus? Craterus took the army overland. He should be here within a few days, Archelaus said. We also captured this guy, Neoptolemus said as he brought in Seleucus. Is that the one and only Seleucus the pirate? Mithridates asked, smiling. It is I, Seleucus said. Your generals seem to be fairly competent. The smile on Mithridates' face went away. If they weren't, then you wouldn't be here right now. All right, Mithridates, what do you want from me? Seleucus asked. I will spare your life if you call off your pirates and stop the raiding in the Black Sea, Mithridates said. Well, where the hell are we else supposed to go? Seleucus asked. Mithridates' smile suddenly came back. The Aegean. The Romans have no fleet. Their islands will be easy pickings. I always knew that a son of Mithridates V was going to be just as smart as he was, Seleucus said with a laugh. Let him go, Neoptolemus, Mithridates ordered. You will all have a month of rest. After that, we are going to the north. The north? Archelaus asked. Yes, to the north of the Black Sea, Mithridates said. The Bosporan kingdom needs our help. Diophantus the Younger will also be accompanying you. The generals looked eerily at one another as silence filled the air. Chapter 10. Are you almost ready? Lysonas asked. Will you give me a second? Diophantus replied. I want to make sure that I have our strategy ready. You were always the one that took their time, Gordius the Younger joked. Taking extra time might be what saves us, Archelaus said. Fighting in Scythia is going to suck. Suddenly Pelopidas walked by, followed by another man. Right this way, sir, Pelopidas said. Well, it is unexpected to see so many generals in the palace. We are preparing to go fight in Scythia. We just want to make sure that we are ready, Diophantus said. I hope that the gods are on your side. Scythia is a dangerous place, Pelopidas said. You know that it is dangerous when an ambassador warns you, Archelaus said. Alright, I think we are ready, Diophantus said. Let's get the chariots and cavalry down to Taxiles. He was probably dying to get his hands on a fight, Archelaus said. Do you two know each other? Gordius the Younger asked. Yes, we both fought alongside the Seleucid Empire, Archelaus said. We both quit after seeing Egyptian and Seleucid elephants tear each other apart. We can talk about history later. We need to get going, Lysonas said. Why are we taking orders from an ambassador? Archelaus whispered. Just listen to the man until we get to the Bosporus, Diophantus said. After marching to the coast of the Black Sea for 2 days, the generals arrived to see Neoptolemus and Taxiles waiting for them. You could not have taken any longer, Taxiles said. I agree with the Indian, Neoptolemus said. Indian? Taxiles thought. I have a feeling that this is actually just a plot to get us all killed, Neoptolemus said. Mithridates would never do that, Gordius the Younger said. Do you know the last time that the Scythians lost a battle? Neoptolemus asked. Yes, it was the day that the undefeated Pontic army left Sinope, Diophantus replied with a smirk. Everyone's spirits were suddenly boosted. We are going to show those Scythians how real warriors fight, Gordius the Younger said. What is the plan, Diophantus? Neoptolemus asked. We need to first find a good landing spot. After that, I plan on splitting up the army, Diophantus said. Craterus and I will lead our troops towards Phanagoria and up to the Sea of Azov. Archelaus and Gordius the Younger will lead the army into the contested Crimea. Let's do it, Archelaus said. If we have the opportunity, can we get peace terms as favorable as possible? Mithridates said that he wanted us to subdue as much of Scythia as we can, so that is what we are going to do, Diophantus said. Look, I can already see the Crimea, Gordius the Younger said. It is good to be home, Lysonas said, suddenly feeling much better. The army began to deport their soldiers and supplies, when Pelopidas came out of nowhere and with thousands of warriors rushing towards them. I am telling you that they requested Pontic help, Pelopidas shouted. So that is why we should just unite with you, just so you can make false claims, one of the chieftains asked. No, you idiot, I am trying to preserve our freedom, Pelopidas said. The Pontic army is undefeated. How are we supposed to win? One of the chieftains yelled out. You buffoon! So are we, Pelopidas yelled. What makes them so much better than us? The chieftains finally agreed to unite their clans. How many Pontic troops? Pelokas asked one of the spies. Not a lot. Nowhere near the size of our army, the spy replied. Let's crush them, Pelokas ordered his army forward. Confidence ran high as Pelokas led the charge. Chariots, stop them, Craterus yelled. The horsemen of Scythia, despite never being beaten before, were horrified by the scythed chariots. Diophantus took advantage of the situation. Cavalry, follow me! The Pontic cavalry swept behind the Scythians and smashed into their flank. At the same time, the chariots ripped men and horse alike in two. You cowards, don't flee! Pelokas' dreams of a united, free Scythia fell apart before his eyes. He let out his war cry and charged into the Pontic horse. Enjoy this javelin, Diophantus yelled as he threw the javelin at Pelokas. Pelokas dodged it and rushed at Diophantus. Diophantus pulled out a sword and a fight between the two began. Pelokas tried again and again to land a hit on Diophantus, but Diophantus was born and trained as a warrior. He parried the perfect attack and sliced Pelokas' arm. The hit was ineffective. Eventually, Diophantus jumped off of his horse and onto Pelokas'. Pelokas had run out of stamina and could no longer stop the attack of Diophantus. Diophantus ended the man who attempted to keep Scythia free. Will the gods have mercy on us after that? Craterus asked. Ha, you were the reason that we won, Gordius Younger said. Looks like we are still undefeated. If we get lucky like that, then we will always be undefeated, Diophantus said as he emerged from the bloodbath. It looks like my Pontic allies know a thing or two about strategy, Paracetes V said, walking towards the Pontic generals. It is nice to finally meet you, Archelaus said. He quickly caught himself. Your Majesty. Don't feel embarrassed about calling me Majesty or not. I am glad that you are here, Paracetes V said. Are there any specific tasks that you have for us? Diophantus asked. There are not, Paracetes replied. As I said before, it is an honor to have you here. What do we do now? Gordius Younger asked. We proceed with the plan. I will take Craterus and the chariots with me, Diophantus said. The rest of you will have to fight over the Crimea. Neoptolemus sailed Diophantus and Craterus towards Phanagoria. Your Majesty, I have the poison maker that you requested, Pelopidas said. His name is Craterus. You are dismissed, Pelopidas. Thank you for your work, Mithridates said. It is nice to finally have you, Craterus. It is nice to be in Pontus, welcomed by the great king, Craterus said. Do you have any labs that I will be able to work in? Mithridates smiled. We have just finished building one, alongside 2 greenhouses. This is great news, Craterus said. When can I get to work? As soon as you would like, Mithridates said. You will be accompanied by my eunuch, Dionysus. Where would I find Dionysus? Craterus asked. Pelopidas, Mithridates called. What is it, your Majesty? Pelopidas asked. I want you to find Dionysius the eunuch and bring him to the lab in Amasya, Mithridates said. I will be right back, your Majesty, Pelopidas said as he left the room. I will say, Mithridates, your name is becoming quite famous, Craterus said. That is good news, but I must ask, why? Mithridates replied. A smile came across his face. It has been said that you are destined to be the savior of Asia from Rome, Craterus said. Rome. The name echoed in Mithridates' head. We will see what fate the gods have for me. Sir, I have found Dionysius, Pelopidas said. Great. Craterus will go with you into the lab, Mithridates said. Before Mithridates could get up off his throne, one of the nurses came running in. Sire, come quickly, she said. Mithridates left the palace room and went with the nurse. What is going on? He asked. Mithridates felt the same panic from before, overpowering his body. Valda isn't going to survive, she replied. All of a sudden, Mithridates lost feeling in his legs. The pain was unbearable. Tears started to stream down his face. Why? He shouted. Sire, we must hurry. She isn't going to last much longer, the nurse said. Move, Mithridates shouted as he pushed the nurse out of his way. He rushed into the room where Valda was. Mithridates, she struggled to say. Look, it's our new daughter. Save your words. You don't have the strength to say them, Mithridates said. Tears still fell from his face. Do not worry about me, Valda said. Find someone new to take care of our children, were her final words. Mithridates collapsed on the ground. We will take care of the child for a few days, one of the nurses said in a low tone. Her name is Cleopatra, Mithridates said as he stood up. He took a look at his newborn child, and then back at Valda's lifeless body. I will never marry anyone again. This weather is horrible, Diophantus complained. Be glad that we are still alive, Craterus said. Look, there is the Sea of Azov. The two generals finally made it. The Phanagorians surrendered at the mere mention of our names. Let's hope that these tribes do the same, Diophantus said. Before either of them could do anything, arrows started to fall. Get into positions, we are under attack. Thousands of Scythian horse archers rained hell on the Pontic army. Charge, the Scythian chieftain shouted. You won't be charging today, Craterus whispered. Give them hell. He ordered his scythe chariots to intercept the enemy cavalry. We are not falling for that again. The chieftain wheeled his horsemen around the chariots and dodged them. Impossible, Craterus shouted in shock. Craterus began to worry. The success of the Scythian charge was not going to last long. Diophantus had rallied the Pontic cavalry. They charged at the swerving Scythian horsemen, routing them instantly. That was too close, Craterus said as he shivered from the cold. It was very close, Diophantus said. And it looks like they have learned to counter our chariots, Craterus said. I hope that Archelaus is doing better, Diophantus said. All of a sudden, a warrior carrying a white flag came running up to Diophantus. The tribes around the Sea of Azov surrender, the man said. Peacefully surrender all of your territory and send us hostages, then we will leave you alone, Diophantus replied. I will bring the terms of surrender back to my fellow countrymen, the man said as he left. I can't believe it, Diophantus said. Our campaigns have been utterly successful. It is a testament to our skill, Craterus said with a smirk. Let's hope that this surrender is a real surrender. Meanwhile, in the Crimea. Alright, Achilles, what type of army do we have to work with, Archelaus asked. We have some Thracian mercenaries, mostly heavy infantry, and a small amount of cavalry, Achilles said. Cavalry is the most important thing that we will need, Archelaus said. I don't see how the enemy cavalry will be able to break our heavy infantry, Achilles said. You will be surprised at how effective a cavalry charge can be, Archelaus replied. Archelaus, I have taken Neapolis, Scythia. The Chersonesses surrendered after that, Gordius the Younger said. That is very good news. I also hear that Diophantus took over the Sea of Azov, Archelaus said. It seems like our campaigns have been successful, Gordius the Younger said. I wouldn't be so sure. The Scythians are a wild foe, Archelaus said, but we will see what they think of us when we unite our armies. At that exact moment, a messenger arrived. He was bearing the same white flag. Could it be, Archelaus thought? Mithridates will be delighted. Chapter 11. Are you ready to get out of this place? Archelaus asked. We can tell Mithridates the good news. We won't be going anywhere, Diophantus replied. Mithridates wants us to go to the west and attempt to take over Sarmatia and the Bastarnae. Archelaus sighed. Alright, let's get going. I can take a few thousand soldiers with me and go to Olbia. That will give you guys a good place to resupply, Neoptolemus said. With what supplies? Archelaus asked. I can go back to Pontus and get them, Neoptolemus said. I will go to you with Olbia. My unit and I can defend it till the others catch up, Taxiles said. Taxiles and Neoptolemus took the fleet to Olbia. They were greeted by cheers. Finally, we can defend ourselves, the leader of the militia said. Why are you so happy to see your conquerors? Taxiles asked. Conquerors? The leader of the militia asked. Why, you are our liberators. We have been under attack from the Scythians for years. Raise the Pontic falcon, because you will no longer come under attack from anyone, Taxiles said. The Pontic flag was raised above the city. You have fun getting to know your new friends. I'm gonna go get us fresh supplies, Neoptolemus said. Taxiles smiled. Be safe and hurry. Taxiles looked up at the Pontic flag as the wind whipped. How about we give you a tour of our city, while we wait for your allies? The leader of the militia asked. Taxiles readily agreed. I can see Olbia. Thank the gods, Gordius the Younger said. Don't be so happy. One of my scouts reported a large gathering of Sarmatians not too far from here, Archelaus said. The Sarmatians are not Scythians either. Be prepared, Diophantus said. With the heavy infantry from the Bosporan kingdom, we should be fine, Archelaus said. The generals get to Olbia and meet with Taxiles. Have you been enjoying your stay? Diophantus asked. These citizens won't leave me alone. They keep calling me their liberator, Taxiles replied. You have to keep in mind, this is the first time that Olbia has been fully relieved, Diophantus said. All they ever wanted was to be liberated. How long are we staying here? Archelaus asked. His eye caught something that he could not take it off of. Until Neoptolemus brings back our supplies, Diophantus replied. Did you even hear me? Archelaus started to walk away. I see what he's looking at, Taxiles said. There's a girl over there, one of which he can't take his eyes off of. You have to be kidding me, Diophantus said, annoyed. Hello, beautiful, Archelaus introduced himself. My name is Maya, the girl said, shyly. It is nice to meet you, Maya, Archelaus said. We just lost one of our best generals, didn't we? Diophantus asked. After one night they won't be with each other, Taxiles replied, smiling. He became famous in Antioch overnight. Pelopidas, can you fetch Alexander of Paphlagonia? Mithridates asked. Yes, your majesty, I will be right back, Pelopidas replied. Then a knock came to the palace door. Come in, Mithridates said. Neoptolemus? It is I, sir, Neoptolemus replied. How is the campaign going? Mithridates asked. Great, we took over all of the Crimea and the Sea of Azov. Paracetes V also surrendered his kingdom over to us, Neoptolemus replied. Congratulations, I will have rewards for all of you when you get back, Mithridates said. What is it that you want? Well, your majesty, we are running low on supplies. Fighting the Scythians is taking a toll on us, Neoptolemus said. Very well, I will have the supplies and extra soldiers ready to join you in Sinope, Mithridates said. Neoptolemus thanked him and left. Is this your plan to get us out of debt? Gordius the Elder asked. Mithridates couldn't help but smile. It seems that you have caught on to my grand plan. You do know that. Gordius stopped to let out a cough. Rome will notice sooner or later. Mithridates spit at the sound of the name. Gordius, you need to get some rest. If you need me, I can relieve you of your duty. Your majesty, I am in perfect condition, Gordius the Elder said with another cough. I find that hard to believe. Now go, get some rest for a few days, Mithridates said. That is an order. Gordius the Elder bowed and left the room. Before Mithridates had any time to relax, Pelopidas came back with Alexander of Paphlagonia. Thank you, Pelopidas. You are dismissed, Mithridates said. It is nice to be back in the palace, with the greatest king of Pontus, of course, Alexander of Paphlagonia said. Mithridates smiled at the remark. We are not here to discuss who is great and who isn't. We are here to discuss military matters. My apologies, sir, Alexander of Paphlagonia replied. What do you know about Armenia Minor? Mithridates asked. From what I have heard, it is being controlled by Tigran I. However, he is too preoccupied with the Parthians and unable to deploy any armed forces in the area, Alexander of Paphlagonia replied. I want you to take 5,000 troops to the region. Occupy it, Mithridates said. If Tigran argues, tell him that we can come to an agreement. I will not fail you, sir. Alexander of Paphlagonia bowed and left. All of a sudden, an unfamiliar face came into the room. It was Laodice, Mithridates' sister. Hello, my king, Laodice said with a smile. Laodice? Mithridates asked, shocked. Don't act surprised. I was just coming in to congratulate you on all of your achievements so far, Laodice replied. I highly doubt that, Mithridates thought. What is it that you really want? Laodice pondered for a moment. I want to be your queen. Mithridates practically threw up at what he was hearing. What? Maybe this will change your mind. Laodice untied her hair, took her dress off, and walked in front of Mithridates. In an instant, Laodice became queen of Pontus. Neoptolemus is back with the supplies, Diophantus said. Good, we need to get moving before winter hits again, Taxiles said. Where is Archelaus? Where do you think? Diophantus asked sarcastically. Is he still with his dancing girl? Taxiles asked. Yes, and who knows how much longer he will be, Diophantus said. Stop fretting, I am right here, Archelaus said as he put his tiara on. It is about time. Let's get going. I don't want to freeze to death, Diophantus said. I have heard news that the Sarmatians and Bastarnae allied and are getting together, Archelaus said. Good, that will make it a fair fight, Diophantus said with a smirk. I would not be making jokes if I were you, Gordius the Younger said. The Bastarnae and Sarmatians are not the Scythians. Gordius is right. The Sarmatians and Bastarnae are much more fierce, Archelaus said. We will ambush them here, Menelaus said, as he pointed to his map. It is a perfect place, Berengar said. My infantry will pin them in place, while your cavalry will crush them from each flank. The river will give you time and ability for your men to hold, Menelaus said. My cavalry will smash them, and the battle will be won. The Sarmatian and Bastarnae allies marched to the agreed-upon location for the battle. The Sarmatian cavalry went into the nearby woods on each side. I don't like this, Diophantus said, feeling uneasy. Like what? Archelaus asked. The position we just put ourselves in, Diophantus replied. Those are Bastarnae warriors. If they are allied with the Sarmatians, then where are they? Look, if the Bastarnae are holding the only crossing point, then that must mean the cavalry are in the forest trying to ambush us, Gordius the Younger said. Craterus, put your chariots in front of our archers, Archelaus, and I will split the army up and ambush the ambushers, Diophantus said. Craterus moved his chariots into position while the two generals gathered adequate ambushing forces. This is impossible, Megaenos said. We have to charge them before they get into position. Megaenos ordered both his cavalry forces to attack. Form a phalanx. Archelaus ordered his hoplites to hold back the enemy cavalry. Taking what little cavalry he did have, he rushed around the flank. Diophantus was in a far worse position. Hold, you cowards! He was attempting to hold together what forces he did have left. Enough of this! Berengar rushed across the river and deployed his infantry. Perfect, Gordius the Younger whispered. He ordered his archers to fire at the unarmored Bastarnae. As the Bastarnae attempted to survive the arrow volleys, Craterus unleashed his scythe chariots. The Bastarnae could not withstand the attack. They fled the field. You foolish cowards, Megaenos yelled. His cavalry, seeing their allies break, followed in the rout. The Pontic army was victorious. They almost had us, Diophantus said. They almost had you, Archelaus replied with a laugh. Both of the barbarian kings came walking up to the Pontic army. What are your terms? Our terms are that you stay loyal to Mithridates VI, pay tribute, and give us soldiers when we call upon you, Diophantus replied. The two kings looked at each other. We accept, was all they said. We will also be garrisoning a few of your cities, just to make sure that you stay loyal, Diophantus said. The barbarian kings did not object. The Black Sea is ours, Gordius the Younger said, grinning. We won against enemies that have never lost, Archelaus said. Then what does that make us? Diophantus asked. The most formidable army in the world, Archelaus replied, wiping the blood off his spear. We still have one opponent, Taxiles said. They are not far from us either, Diophantus said. Rome is right in Pergamon, the only enemy that has a chance. Well, when do we get the chance to prove to them that we are superior, Archelaus asked. Whenever our great king gives us the order, Diophantus said. The 6 generals looked out past the Pontic navy into the Black Sea. After years, the entire Black Sea had become theirs. Chapter 12. Sola, the centurion shouted. What is it? Sola asked. Marius is not backing down. He has gathered his entire army, the centurion said. This could be worse than I expected, Sola thought. Leave me for a moment. I must think on this matter. Before Sola had the chance to think, another centurion came rushing up. Sir, this is very important. Spit it out then, Sola replied, already annoyed with the day. We have reports that a large eastern kingdom has risen and taken control over all of the Black Sea, under a king called Mithridates VI the Eupator Dionysus, the centurion said. Mithridates VI, Sola whispered. Send Gabinius and tell him to tell this king to relinquish all his captured territory. The centurion walked out of the room. What? Mithridates shouted. Who do you think you are, the ruler of the world? The Roman diplomat backed down as Mithridates jumped out of his throne. Tell your rapacious consuls that here in the civilized side of the world, we do not present ourselves as hypocrites and thieves, but as rulers that want peace and harmony, Mithridates said, as he got in the ambassador's face. Tell him everything that I told you. Yes, sir. The ambassador left the palace as sweat dripped down his forehead. Your Majesty, do you think that was the right way to respond? Gordius the Elder asked as he coughed. Not only do I think it was the right way to respond, I think it was the only way to respond to a Roman, Mithridates said. Gordius, are you feeling all right? Yes, Your Majesty, it's just a cough, Gordius the Elder replied. I am going to relieve you of your duty. I want you to spend some time with your family, Mithridates said. Gordius the Elder did not object. What are your plans going to be to take on the Romans? You know they are considered near invincible, Laodice said. Do not worry. I have something in store for them that not even the most elite generals will be prepared for, Mithridates replied. A massacre. Then Alexander of Paphlagonia came into the palace room. Sir, I have successfully occupied Armenia Minor. However, Tigran I's son took over Armenia. He is demanding that we give him back the occupied territory. Ask him if a marriage alliance would calm the tensions, Mithridates said. Alexander bowed and left. Pelopidas, Mithridates called. I want you to travel to Parthia and secure an alliance with Mithridates II. Is this madman serious? Parthia, Pelopidas thought. I will do my best, sir. I am beginning to get restless, Mithridates said. Summon Dorilaus. Dorilaus walked into the palace room and bowed. Dorilaus, how does taking a trip around Asia sound? Mithridates asked. A smile crawled across Dorilaus' face. If we move like smoke and cover our faces, we will be able to travel undetected. I like your idea. Let's get the horses, Mithridates. And Dorilaus left the palace. Laodice sat on the Pontic throne in a sinister twilight. This could be the perfect time, Laodice thought. Sir, Mithridates does not want conflict. He was simply expanding his realm of power, Alexander of Paphlagonia said. Expanding his realm of power? Tigran shouted. If he is expanding his realm of power, then why is he annexing my territory? Alexander of Paphlagonia took a deep breath. He quickly came up with a lie. He was only doing it in retaliation to your father's raiding. Raiding, Tigran thought. Don't believe him, sir, Mithras whispered into his ear. What agreement are you proposing? Tigran asked. Alexander of Paphlagonia felt a wave of relief come over him. Mithridates has a beautiful daughter named Cleopatra. Tigran smiled. I shall accept. Finally, I can see Pontus, our glorious homeland, Diophantus said. The breeze from the Black Sea sent his long hair flying into the wind. I can't wait to see the look on Mithridates' face when we tell him about all of our conquests, Archelaus said. Not to destroy your dreams, but Mithridates left, Gordius Younger said. He is traveling all of Asia with Dorilaus. Who is in charge of our kingdom? Diophantus asked. He apparently left it in charge of his most senior generals, Gordius the Younger said. That would be us, Archelaus replied. The 6 generals looked at each other. I have a better idea, Diophantus said. We will take orders from Valda. Diophantus, Gordius the Younger said. Valda is dead. She died in childbirth. Who is the queen then? Archelaus asked. Laodice, Mithridates the 6th sister, Gordius the Younger replied. He allowed his mother's daughter to be queen? Diophantus shouted. I don't think he did it willingly, Gordius the Younger said. The generals eventually made it back to Sinope, the new capital of Pontus. As the 6 generals walked down the streets, citizens poured out of their homes and cheered the generals on. Looks like we made the citizens of Pontus happy, Neoptolemus said. He took a moment to enjoy the cheers. Happy and rich, Archelaus said. How is Rome going to react to this, he thought. The generals split off to their old posts, where they would finally stay until further notice. I made it to the Euphrates River. Finally, Pelopidas said. He filled his clay pot with water. Parthia is not much further. Pelopidas jumped onto his horse and continued his ride. All was calm until dust clouds could be seen. Arabian Bandits. The Arabian Bandits could see the royal robe that Pelopidas was wearing, and they wanted it. Looks like an ambassador, one of them said. What is an ambassador worth? Another one asked. He won't be worth much now, but later when we get information from him, we could sell him, the leader of the Arabian Bandits replied. Let's get him. The bandits rushed off towards Pelopidas. A feeling of dread came over Pelopidas. I'm not going to die today, he said under his breath. He spurred his Cappadocian horse on. The Arabian light horses were unexpectedly outrun by the Cappadocian. One of the 10 bandits split off and attempted to cut Pelopidas off. Pelopidas turned his larger horse to the side and rammed the Arabian. He did not kill the man, but he knocked him off of his horse, giving him crucial time. Hey, slow down! The voice was heard right in front of Pelopidas. Pelopidas turned to see a unit of cavalry standing in front of him. He attempted to slow down, but ended up colliding with one of the men. What are you doing? The lead cavalryman asked. Pelopidas attempted to regain his breath. I was running from bandits. We can see that, but what is a Pontic ambassador doing in Parthia? The lead cavalryman asked. I am here to see Mithridates II on Mithridates VI's orders, Pelopidas said. Come right with us, the lead cavalryman said. Pelopidas was taken all the way to Ecbatana. Isn't it the great king of Parthia, Mithridates II? Pelopidas said as he walked into the palace room. Mithridates II let out a smirk. I have heard of your king's success, from being a runaway to ruling the entire Black Sea. Ah, yes, Mithridates VI is an ambitious king, Pelopidas replied. Now, let us get to the point. Why are you here? Pontus is a long distance from Parthia, Mithridates II said. I am here seeking an alliance, Pelopidas said. You see, Rome is getting closer to Pontus, and although we can fight them on our own, the Armenians have joined us. If we allied with you, our triple alliance would overwhelm Rome, allowing us to be free. The Parthian king leaned forward. And what is in it for me? He asked. Your independence, and you will never have to worry about the Romans coming to your border, Pelopidas replied. Pelopidas suddenly became extremely nervous. The Parthian king thought for a moment. And how long do you think you could resist Rome for? Pelopidas froze in his spot. He quickly came up with a clever reply. If you supply us with a small amount of manpower and money, we could hold them off for decades. I accept your alliance, Mithridates II said. I will have 1,000 Median cavalry waiting for you, along with an abundance of gold. Pelopidas couldn't help but smile. Thank you, great king of Parthia. Pelopidas bowed and was escorted out by a Median cavalry commander. Meanwhile, in Asia. Isn't Phrygia beautiful? Dorilaus asked. It is, but it would be better if it wasn't under Roman rule, Mithridates replied. You think too much about war. Why not enjoy the time that we are out? Dorilaus asked. Dorilaus, when was the last time a Roman consul was thinking about enjoying their lives? Mithridates asked. That is why you are Pontic, not Roman, Dorilaus said with a wide grin. The two friends had just arrived in a marketplace in Phrygia. Let us get some extra food. I don't like that we are stopping so much to shop, Mithridates said as he walked over to the owner of a fruit cart. What would you like? The old man asked. Mithridates proceeded to take a few items and pay the man an exceedingly extra amount. I can't believe it, the old man thought. Hey you, come back here. Mithridates tightened his cloak. What do you want? He asked. You, sir, are a blessing from the gods, the old man said. Is there anything I can do for you? No, sir, I was just being generous, Mithridates replied as he walked off. There is something strange about that man, the old man said to his wife. I think he is one that was in my dreams. Dreams are just dreams, the old man's wife said. He is special. I know that for a fact, the old man said under his breath. If he is so special, then why aren't we saved from Roman taxes yet? One of the agents complained. I will bet you 30 drachmas that he will come back, the old man shouted. The two agreed on the bet. That was different, Dorilaus said. Maybe people are starting to catch on. We have been out for a month. No one is catching on to anything but your smell, Mithridates joked. Do I really smell that bad? Dorilaus asked. Way worse than you should, Mithridates said with a laugh. Don't worry, I know where a good bathing spot is. The two friends rushed to a nearby river called the Rindakis. Not too far from here is the city of Cyzicus, Mithridates said. How do you know all this? Dorilaus asked. Because I studied maps when I lived in the mountains. That was all there was to do, Mithridates said. That and train. Is that why you were so good with weapons when you were young? Dorilaus asked. Partly, and my anger to get revenge on my mother, Mithridates replied. Do you think your wife is going to be like her? Dorilaus asked. I don't know, but if she is, I won't wait for revenge, Mithridates said in a low voice. Sir, reports have come in that the king of Pontus won't give up his conquered territory, the centurion said. Ah, Sola shouted as he threw his books off of his desk. Why? Why do these eastern barbarians always have to do this? If he won't give up his territory, then someone will make him. It is also known that he has allied with the king of Armenia and the king of Parthia, the centurion said. That's it. Bring Aquilius to me, Sola said. Aquilius came into the room. What is it that you request of me? Take Quintius Oppius and Lucius Cassius to Asia, Sola said. Raise as many allied troops as you can. I have 1 legion that will accompany you. As you wish, sir. Aquilius left the dark room. This minor king is about to feel the real fist of power, Sola thought. Quintus Oppius, Lucius Cassius, and Aquilius all gathered onto a small fleet that brought them to Asia with their legion. Do you think that this will be hard? Cassius asked with a smile. Of course not. Nothing can stop the might of our legions, Aquilius boasted. The Pontic army has a reputation for being undefeated, so don't boast until they are under our rule, Oppius said. Oppius, don't overestimate how strong they are, Aquilius said. Now go with Cassius and levy the soldiers that we need. You were always a fool, Oppius thought. Chapter 13. 1 year later. I think that it's a good time to get back home, Mithridates said. I think we should have done that sooner. We have been gone for almost a year, Dorilaus replied. Calm your nerves, the kingdom is perfectly fine, Mithridates said. The two friends traveled from Galatia all the way to Sinope. It is good to be back, Mithridates said. I will see you later. I have to get back to Comina, Dorilaus said. The two friends departed. Mithridates walked into the palace, surprised to see Pelopidas. Mithridates, Pelopidas said, we thought you died. Died, Mithridates replied. Yes, Laodice has taken over as regent, Pelopidas replied. Oh no, she hasn't. Mithridates marched into the palace room. Laodice sat high up on his throne. Mithridates, it is good to see. Before Laodice could finish, Mithridates interrupted. Why are you on my throne? You are also pregnant, he said. Laodice froze in fear. You took over the exact same treachery that your mother had. Get out, Mithridates shouted. Laodice left the room. I have to get out, she thought. Mithridates sat back on his throne and made sure that Laodice didn't ruin anything. But then he remembered. He rushed out of his palace room and after Laodice. Where do you think you are going? Mithridates, please just let me leave. I promise I will go somewhere and never show my face again, Laodice pleaded. How can I trust you after you had an affair and took over my kingdom? Mithridates asked. Laodice did not speak. Guards, arrest her, Mithridates said. 2 of his guards grabbed Laodice and brought her down into one of the dungeons. Here, give this to her when you give her a meal, Mithridates said as he slipped a vial of arsenic over to his guard. The guard nodded his head. Mithridates once again walked down the halls of Sinope alone. Mithridates, Pelopidas called out, I have been trying to tell you something. What is it? Mithridates asked. I managed to get an alliance with Parthia, Pelopidas said, but there is something much more important. Rome has been levying troops on our border. There are 120,000 of them altogether. Mithridates stood completely frozen. These Romans want a war? We are going to show them what a real war is. Contact Nicomedes III. We are going to partition Paphlagonia. As you wish, sir. Pelopidas rushed out of Sinope and made his way to Bithynia. Your king wants me to partition Paphlagonia with him, Nicomedes III asked, not impressed. Yes, you would take over the western half, and Mithridates would take over the eastern half, Pelopidas replied. This fool is trying to trigger a war with Rome, Nicomedes III thought. I shall accept, but I will only support with minimal soldiers. We are glad that you have decided to help us, Pelopidas said as he left. You fool, he thought. Nicomedes III and Mithridates arrive in Paphlagonia. I am glad that we could come to an agreement, Mithridates said. Nicomedes III smiled. Yes, I am too, but you do know that Rome will not approve. Mithridates, filled with anger. Rome has no business getting involved with Asian affairs. I agree, but they will come here nonetheless, Nicomedes III replied. If they come here, then we will defend ourselves, Mithridates said. The two kings agreed to split the territory of Paphlagonia and left to their respective territories. Sir, a man named Manius Aquilius is here, Pelopidas said. Let the fool in, Mithridates replied. Let's see what he has in store for me. Aquilius walked into the palace room flanked by two centurions. Greetings, King of Pontus. Mithridates stiffened his body and did not respond. To make this quick, so we can get back to our own business, Aquilius said. You have wrongly taken Paphlagonia. Give it up. Mithridates stepped off of his throne and walked down to Aquilius. First of all, it was mine by inheritance. Second of all, didn't you wrongly take Kyrene? Did you not wrongly attack Carthage in the first of 3 Punic wars? Mithridates took a long pause. Lastly, what power do you hold over me? I am my own king, as you are your own governor. Aquilius was filled with rage. He fired back at Mithridates. We took over Carthage when they started a war. Before Aquilius could continue, Mithridates cut in. Lies, he thundered. You attack any nation you see fit so you can rule the world. If you can conquer whoever you want, then why can't we do the same? Aquilius had no response. He turned and walked out of the palace. Zenobius, Mithridates' general, stared in awe. Mithridates walked back to his throne. If they want war, then let's give it to them. Your Majesty, Marius is here to meet you, Pelopidas said. Mithridates walked out of Sinope and got on a horse with a few bodyguards. Who is this man? Bituitus asked. He is a Roman consul. He is fighting Sola in their civil war, Mithridates replied. What do you think he wants? One of the Scythians asked. I don't know, but I can't wait to see what speech he makes up, Mithridates replied. Mithridates and his small bodyguard made their way to Galatia and meet with Marius. It is an honor to meet the king of Pontus, Marius said. Mithridates was not impressed. Marius, I have heard of your exploits, and yet I still wonder why you came all the way to Galatia to talk to me. Marius puffed his chest out and tapped on the hilt of his sword. Either bow down to Rome or become strong enough to overcome our might. With these words, Marius walked off. Mithridates stood in the same place thinking about the words. Let's get going, he said. Mithridates and his guard traveled all the way back to Sinope. Do you have any new plans? Gordius asked. Cappadocia and Galatia. Those are my new plans, Mithridates said. I want you to take a small army and push Ariarathes out. Gordius readily agreed. He bowed and left the room. A wave of confidence came over the veteran commander. Chapter 14. Sir, although I took over Cappadocia, Laodice, your sister, invited Nicomedes III over to her kingdom, Gordius said. Mithridates slammed his fist on his throne. Summon the entire army. I am going to teach this dancing vulgar girl a lesson. High on top of his black horse, Mithridates rode off to Cappadocia. His entire army followed. Mithridates, it is nice to see you here, Nicomedes III said. I am not coming here to chat, Mithridates replied. I am here to get you out of Cappadocia. By what authority? Nicomedes III asked. Nicomedes' nerves began to take over. By this authority. In a furious rage, Mithridates shoved Nicomedes into a wall. You fool, Nicomedes shouted. He shoved Mithridates back. As he was about to strike Mithridates with his sword, Bituitus, a large Gallic bodyguard, punched Nicomedes across the face. Nicomedes left Cappadocia with half of his army dead. Gordius, you will be the ruler of Cappadocia, Mithridates said. Laodice will be packing her clothes. Archelaus, I want you to stay here with Gordius with a small cavalry unit. The two generals stayed in Pontic ruled territory. That was until Sola arrived. Relinquish Cappadocia, or I will force you out, Sola demanded. I am not in the mood to deal with this, he thought. Archelaus, a skilled warrior with high confidence, walked up to Sola. If you want Cappadocia so badly, then why didn't you take it over when you had the chance? Sola was not in the mood for negotiating. He left the palace and rallied his 5,000 men. Archelaus waited with his cavalrymen. Do you think we have a chance? Gordius asked. No, I don't, but I am going to make sure he knows what he's fighting against, Archelaus said. The cavalry and legion engaged. Archelaus rallied his men. They fought with brazen loyalty. They usually break by now, one of the legions shouted. Are you kidding? I thought they were going to run before they fought, another said right before a spear went through his eye. Though the cavalry fought as hard and as long as they could, they were no match for the Roman legion. "These Pontic troops," Sola said as he tried to catch his breath, "they don't go down easy." "We gave them hell, Archelaus. I am sure they are going to remember that," Gordius said. "Yes, we made sure that they got what they had coming for them," Archelaus replied, "although Mithridates is not going to want to hear this news." "Tell me how we lost Cappadocia again," Mithridates asked. The two generals retold the story for the fourth time. "I have an idea," Mithridates said. "Gordius, go to Tigran II of Armenia. Request that he invades Cappadocia. He can have the loot and captives. I want the land." Gordius agreed and left the room. "What are we going to do now?" Archelaus asked. "I am not playing into the Romans' hands. They want an excuse for war," Mithridates replied as he took a sip of his wine. "I have sent Alexander of Paphlagonia to take over Galatia." "I see," Archelaus said. "You know war with Rome is going to happen no matter what we do, so how are we going to win this war?" Mithridates leaned forward. "The Romans want big field battles. I am not going to give them that on their terms," he began. "I have a large fleet that your brother is commanding. All we have to do is get Rome out of Asia. Our fleet will do the rest of the work." "What if they get past our fleet?" Archelaus asked. Mithridates smiled. "That is why I have constructed 75 castles in Pontus. The Romans will be burnt out trying to take over all of them." "He wants me to kick out Ariobarzanes and put you on the throne," Tigran II asked. "Well, sir, that is not the agreement. You will take all the loot and as many captives as you want," Gordius replied. Tigran looked over at his general Mithras. Mithras proceeded to nod his head. "I will accept. Mithras and Bagoas will escort you." Gordius left with the two Armenian generals, feeling more confident than ever. "Why did Tigran II ally with Mithridates?" Bagoas asked. "I don't know. The only good thing that it does is guard our western flank," Mithras replied. "But no matter what happens, Rome is going to get involved." Bagoas shook his head. "All this campaign is going to do is piss them off more." "Calm down. Let's just get Gordius on the throne and get out," Mithras said. The two Armenian generals led Gordius into Cappadocia. Ariobarzanes was thrown off of his throne. "You two are a blessing from the gods," Gordius said as he thanked the two. The two Armenian generals said little to no words and left Cappadocia. "I am glad that we did that quickly," Mithras said. The generals went all the way back to Artashat. "Send him my daughter and an army," Mithridates said. Since Nicomedes III died, his pathetic son took over. "Where am I sending this army and daughter to?" Pelopidas asked. "To Bithynia, where Socrates Crestus is waiting," Mithridates replied. "This is it. All of Asia is mine," he thought. Nicomedes IV and Ariobarzanes retreated back to Rome. Socrates besieged Nicomedia, and Pelopidas meets Aquilius in Bithynia. Stepping out into the field, Pelopidas begins his speech. "Your own father, Manius Aquilius, was the friend of Mithridates' own father. In return, Phrygia and Cappadocia were wrested away from him. Cappadocia had always belonged to our ancestors. Phrygia was given to Pontus for helping you Romans with the Sun Citizen revolt." Before Pelopidas could continue, a messenger came running up. He explained that Nicomedes had raided Pontic territory and that nothing should be held back. Pelopidas took a long pause in his speech. Then he continued. "Nevertheless, he still had to pay a large sum for it. But now, you allow Nicomedes the Weasel of Bithynia to raid our territory and kill our citizens. Mithridates, who is your friend and ally, calls upon you to defend him or to step aside and allow us to defend ourselves." Pelopidas crossed his arms and waited for Nicomedes' ambassadors to counter his argument. The Bithynian ambassadors got towards the end of their counter-argument. "He is angry with you because when he bought Phrygia by a corrupt bargain, you ordered him to give up his ill-gotten gains. He is angry on account of Cappadocia, which was given to Ariobarzanes. He fears your increasing power." Aquilius ordered the ambassadors to step aside. After Pelopidas repeated his demands, Aquilius responded, "We would not wish that harm came towards Mithridates from Nicomedes, nor can we allow war to be made against Nicomedes, because we do not think that it would be in Rome's interest for Bithynia to be weakened." Aquilius eyed Pelopidas. The two stared at each other before Pelopidas went back to Pontus to bring Mithridates the news. Give Ariarathes an army and tell him to push out Ariobarzanes, Mithridates said. I am giving the Romans one more chance. If they fail to respond, then it's war. Mithridates' nerves became uncontrollable. He paced energetically around his palace room. Pelopidas was finishing his final speech in Bithynia. Now then, either throw off the deceitful mask of friendship, or let us go to Rome and settle the dispute there. Pelopidas looked Aquilius directly in the eye. Aquilius froze as he attempted to find the right response. Either way, Rome. You lose, Pelopidas said under his breath. Aquilius tensed up. Finally, he made his decision. Centurions, remove him! A wide, uncontrollable grin came across Pelopidas' face. You idiot, he thought. Nicomedes IV, get your army together, Aquilius said. Cassius, take your men and hold the passes of Galatia. Ulpius, take your men and hold Cappadocia. I will stay here in Bithynia. I am done playing this game with this arrogant minor king Mithridates VI. Nicomedes IV moved 56,000 troops to the border of Pontus. Nicomedes looked up into the warm afternoon sun. We are making a mistake, he said under his breath. He took one final look at his army before moving it towards the Amnias River. Pelopidas brought the final news to Mithridates. Fine then. Neoptolemus take control of 5,000 light infantry. Archelaus take another 5,000 infantry. Mithridates said, Arcathius, my brave son, you will lead 10,000 cavalry. Craterus, you take 130 chariots and follow them. Taxiles will lead the brazen shield with me. Dorylaeus, take the hoplites and follow us. Mithridates took a long pause. This is the moment where we change the world. Sir, what are you going to do about the Romans on our southern border? Dorylaeus asked. I have already taken care of them. They will join us after we crush Nicomedes and Aquilius. Mithridates said. He slipped his diadem on and walked out of the palace room with his undefeated generals on each side of him. The morale of the Pontic army was high. Mithridates watched as his son, Arcathius, led the scouting force out towards the Amnias River. The war was about to begin. Why do we have to stop now? The boy impatiently asked. Because it's getting late and you have school tomorrow, the father replied. Don't worry, we'll read more tomorrow. The boy stomped away to his room and prepared for bed. Tomorrow, we prepare for Mithridates' colossal war. End of Book 1.